Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast, powered by Riverwind Casino. My name's Brendan Drum, here with Parker Thune. Jeez, lots to talk about. We will discuss the Gavin Sawchuk situation a little bit. We will discuss the OU running back room. We are going to discuss the transfer portal, where OU goes from here. Jermichael Carter situation, Adam Sate, the wide receiver that Oklahoma is in on, pushing for, should be a decision here in the next few days, or at least that's the hope. We will also discuss some recruiting as official visits are right around the corner, spring practices right around the corner. I was with Jaden O'Neill, Ben Arbuckle, Mike Bobo, Joe John Finley, Seth Dagey, and a couple other programs today at Jaden O'Neill's throwing session in Mustang. We'll discuss that. And we'll discuss Porter Moser killing it once again with another big get in Darian Reed, former 5-star out of Alabama. But first, we want to thank our sponsors.
And that starts with our presenting sponsor, Riverwind Casino, which has been OKC's premier gaming destination for nearly 2 decades, folks. Almost 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars, and dining options, plus, of course, the best live music in the metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Also want to give a shout out to Jana King, a proud partner of OU Athletics, and the greatest team to ever clean, delivering spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can check them out at janiking.com. That's JANIKING.com to find the right solution for you or your business. I also want to introduce you to Huel, folks. If you are constantly on the move or just tired of skipping meals, Huel has you covered. They're today's sponsor, HUEL, and their Black Edition Ready to Drink is a total game changer. It's a complete meal in one bottle with 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, high fiber and low sugar, so you feel full, focused, and ready for your day. No prep, no cleanup, just grab and go. Huel's already sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. New customers are going to get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use our code OU Insider. Don't miss out. Try it today. If you live like me and Brandon, constantly on the go, a lot of short notice commitments, guess what? Sometimes you don't have time to plan or prep a complete meal, and that's where Huel comes in. Huel tastes fantastic. It actually tastes like a milkshake and comes in delicious chocolate or vanilla. Bonus is they're low sugar. They're also incredibly affordable. Again, the Black Edition has a whopping 35 grams of protein plus 27 vitamins and minerals. That's all going to cost you less than $5 a bottle. So start saving time and money without compromising your nutrition today with this exclusive offer for new customers of 15% plus a free gift using our exclusive code OU Insider at Huel.com. That's 15% plus a free gift for new customers using the code OU Insider at Huel.com. Please see our description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled. That's HUEL.
All right. Hey, before we get into it, I got to do this. Happy birthday to now 10-year-old son, Kyler. Turning, as this is getting released, he will be 10, April 29th. So happy birthday, little man.
Let me throw in a personal shout out of my own as well while we're on that topic, because my youngest sister, as of tonight, is going to be a Sooner. Made her college decision between OU and Nebraska. Made the right choice, in my opinion. It'll be fun to have her here in the Sooner state. But my parents were Sooners. I was a Sooner. My middle 2 siblings were not. And so had one final shot to keep the OU tradition strong in the family, and brought it home. So she's going to be coming to OU in the fall. That's exciting. Props to her. Congrats on the decision. And like I said, obviously going to be very excited to have her down here in the Sooner State.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations to you guys and her, obviously. All right. Let's get into it because I think we didn't do a rapid reaction to the Gavin Sawchuk situation. The situation sucked, and I have talked to a lot of people over the last even 72 hours, and there's a lot of it is what it is. This is where college football's headed. It's unfortunate, that type of reaction. But it also that phrase always follows and kind of um, is a conclusion of what a crappy deal for a good kid. What a crappy deal for a guy that did a lot for, and particularly in 2023. You look at his 2023, and they would even say that he saved the offense in a lot of ways, the run game. Um, and so th- this thing wasn't as easy as some people want to believe it was, and like, oh, that's an easy decision. No, he was working with the ones. There was not an easy decision. It was a decision that was made, and I think there's still people within the organization now. I don't know if you can call it program. I think it's an organization, I think, at
Mm.
this point, because it's ran like a professional organization, um, that still don't understand it. They don't, because there's some that feel like maybe somebody else should have that situation thrown at them. But again, as I say, it is what it is. I will say this: the timing of it did not help Sawchuk.
No, no, it did not.
Because by the time, and this is what people need to understand, like people may look at where he ends up and say, go, see, that's how good he was. And the reality is that doesn't matter, because the way that it's being pushed, you can't grandfather somebody in, even with the, you know where I'm going with this, right? With the numbers game, you can't
Mm.
grandfather them in, even if that's what the judge wants them to do, because they weren't originally on the roster at that time. So this is somebody that's going into a situation that has to be looked at as a 105 type deal. And because of that, if he would have gotten in the portal at the beginning of the spring cycle or in the winter when he had the chance to then as well, he probably, I will say, he would have been at Michigan. I'll just say it. He would have been at Michigan. I know that for a fact. He would have been at Michigan, because I know people that, um, let's just say Michigan was looking, and people at Valor
Mm.
were reached out to about Sawchuk at the time. And because they can't talk to the kid, but I know people at Valor, and Michigan was snooping around for Gavin Sawchuk at that time. It sucks. I think Oklahoma State's in on this, which is weird because of the Caleb Hicks situation, right? Um, you're looking at West Virginia, um, Florida State, and a couple other schools have been snooping around for him. But it's just a crappy situation, because he may have been able to go to an SEC school
Mm.
had that happen too in winter. But it
That's
is what
true.
it
That's
is. Like,
true.
I mean, again, I'm saying exactly it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. His brother
Yeah.
is staying at Oklahoma.
Really? How about
Yes,
that? Well,
he has a spot.
yeah. Ultimately, something had to give in that running back room with the addition of Jade Knott, right? That town wasn't big enough. The roster wasn't big enough for
They were the same
five
player. Yeah,
five running backs with starting experience, which
yeah,
is what
same skill
Oklahoma
set.
had there for a very brief moment in time. And I think you give it up to Gavin Sawchuk as a guy that was an outstanding representative of the University of Oklahoma for the 3 years that he was here. And when healthy, I mean, we saw what he was capable of on the football field in 2023. When he had full health and when he had a half decent offensive line to run behind, Gavin Sawchuk was a dangerous man, and you saw that in the second half of the 2023 season. He was also, and this kind of gets undersold a little bit, a phenomenal human being off the
Mm-hmm.
field. A semifinalist for the Werfel Trophy last year, a member of the All SEC Community Service Team, a member of the 2024 All-State AFCA good works team. He did a ton of good for the community via
Yep.
the Soul Mission, via Oklahoma's outreach programs, and of his own accord to represent the university in a very high character manner when he wasn't on the gridiron. So
Yeah.
credit to Gavin Sawchuk for that. Whoever gets him next is going to be getting a running back with a ton of potential and somebody that is going to represent his next university in similar fashion. All in all, you understand why it happened. You understand why, from Oklahoma's standpoint, it made sense business wise to go the direction that they did with Jaden Ott. And
Mm-hmm.
I think Gavin Sawchuk is one of those guys that you can legitimately wish the best for, even if you're one of those cold-hearted Sooner fans that thinks, hey, as soon as they're no longer in the Crimson and Cream, I
Yeah.
don't give a rip about them. Hope they fit, whatever. Gavin Sawchuk is the type of guy that you just can't help but root for wherever he goes next. So you thank him for 3 years of service to the University of Oklahoma and wish him the best in the next endeavor, I think.
He was an amazing pass blocker. I think that was probably his most. Wouldn't you agree that he was probably the most undersold with his pass block? Third down, he was the guy they brought out there every third down. If it was a pass play, 27 was out there, and I think that is that's a trait that that's a trait you need. So you got to hope that you got to hope that Barnes is healthy, and you got to hope that Xavier Robinson is learning to pick up and understand, 6-man coverage, um, blocking schemes, all that type of stuff that, the assignment, you're always picking up the 6-man, whether it's the middle backer, the blitzer, all that type of stuff. It's not easy, not as easy as fans want to make it out to be. So that's a trait that is also going to be lost. But at the end of the day, like you said, like he didn't want to leave OU, but it happened. It is what it is at this point. There's nothing I can say, you can say that's going to change the situation. It sucks. Welcome to the world of college football today, unfortunately. Um, on that note, at wide
Oh,
receiver, Oklahoma's looking.
well, I guess let's start here. Oklahoma did get another transfer addition between
Oh
this
yeah,
podcast
that's
and our
true.
most recent one. Uh, it's not an addition that most anybody else in the SEC is glancing twice at, but for Oklahoma, it's hugely significant. They bring in Tate Sandell, the transfer
Yeah.
kicker from UTSA, 19 of 23 on field goal attempts a season ago for the Roadrunners. 3 of those 4 misses came from beyond 50 yards. He set a school record for touchbacks. He also set a school record for longest field goal converted when he hit a 54-yarder against Memphis. This is stability at the kicker position, the likes of which Oklahoma has not had in a while. Not since freshman year Gabe Burkich in 2019. Have you been able, as an Oklahoma fan, to watch your team's kicker trot out onto the field and have a sense of confidence that his kick is going through the uprights? That changes with the addition of Tate
Mm.
Sandell.
Stay away from the burritos, Mr. Sandell. Stay away from the burritos. That's I think that's what all of you fans are going to be saying right now if you're worth your salt when you get to Norman. For those that don't know, Burkich was a stud until he tried to kick a burrito through the uprights, correct? Um, I You look back at 2022 and even 2023, and if you had stability at the field goal kicker position, how Venable's tenure is looked at a little bit differently, right? And I think you can even look back last year. Maybe they win a few more of those games if they had a field goal kicker that they felt comfortable with and didn't have to go for it on 4th and 3 on their own 35-yard or on the plus side of the 35, right? Like there were a lot of situations last year that they looked and they were like, we're just going to go ahead and go for it. Because chances are, if we're going to go come up with a goose egg, let's at least try to get in the end zone or get closer, right? I don't think you have to worry about that with Sandale Parker. I think you feel pretty good as long as it's 50 yards and in. And even with the 50-yard, issues, or if that's what you want to call them, there's not a lot of field goal kickers out there in college football that are going to be just aces from
Well,
50 plus.
to just have somebody that can get it there
Yeah,
from 50 plus.
facts.
Dude, like, how many times have you seen Zach Schmidt miss short on field goals that were not even 50 yards in length? I mean,
Didn't
I
even get
guess
the back of the end zone.
I guess Tyler Keltner hit one from 50 last
He
year
did.
against Houston, but that was it. Which, by the way, that's going to be a really fun piece of bar trivia a few years down the line. Who was the very first Oklahoma to receive an in-season weekly distinction from the SEC? It was Tyler Keltner, who was SEC Special Teams Player of the Week in Week 2 of the 2024 season.
A name that will be forgotten at some point. And but isn't that where college football's at once again? Like, how many players are there going to be that you actually remember from the 22, 23, 24 teams? Like,
Oh my goodness. We could play a really fun game. You know what? Let's do this.
oh no.
If you're watching on YouTube, get in the comments section. Name a random forgotten Sooner of the Brent Venables era. I'll start us off. Phil
Okay.
Paya.
Ooh, that is a good
Does it get
one.
much more obscure than that? I guess we'll find out when we read the comments.
Um, oh my gosh, was that the Utah State defensive tackle?
Yes.
That's who I was thinking of too. That was the one guy I was thinking of because that's the most obscure person. Uh, who was the FCS linebacker?
Connor Neer.
Connor Neer. That's
Okay,
mine.
there you go. That's your
Connor Neer.
nomination.
Yep.
All
But see,
right,
you
folks,
can't even think of the names. Like
can
it's
you get
hard to.
more obscure than that? There's the challenge for you in the YouTube
Yep.
comments if you're tuning in via YouTube.
All right. Yeah. Let's talk about the wide receiver position though. Um, I I think it's in a good spot regardless if they get Jermichael Carter or not. Obviously, the McNeese State transfer portal wide receiver. It sounds like it's Baylor or Oklahoma at this point, which is weird because Baylor. You don't think it's Baylor?
No. I agree with you. I agree with you in that assessment. The Tennessee visit is on the
Yeah, it's
fritz, and so with
yeah,
that
it is.
knowledge,
He's
yeah,
changed that
Baylor,
like three
Vanderbilt,
times.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and Baylor got the first visit. Like
But see,
here's the thing.
Baylor was backing off from the source I talked to at Baylor. Like they thought it was going to cost too much.
Here's the thing. Ultimately, we know what this is going to come down to, right? It's
Oh
going to come
yeah.
down to the same thing it came down to for Lance Mason when we all kind of figured OU or Purdue, and then boom, here comes Wisconsin, and it's over. These battles, generally speaking, hinge on the financial offers from the respective institutions. Yes, scheme and fit and relationships all matter, but to a much lesser degree than they do in recruiting because you have a week and a half maybe to build those relationships and sell the scheme. And so, more often than not, what the decision is going to hinge on is how large the check is. And Oklahoma has put themselves in a position to be competitive with anyone in that regard when it comes to Jermichael Carter. Now, granted, we thought that was the case with Lance Mason, Brandon, and they got outdone by Wisconsin in that department. So, could it happen again with Jermichael Carter? It could, but from the sum of what I've heard in the last 48 hours, I'm starting to like Oklahoma more and more.
Yeah, I do too. Um, just talking to people over the last 24 hours, they feel good about it, but the longer it stretches out, just kind of the more um you don't want to say annoyed because I don't think that's the right word. I would say nervous they get just because anything can happen the longer it drags out. But yeah, I think Oklahoma feels fairly decent. I think when you go head to head with Baylor, you assume you can win that one. I wonder where Oklahoma is as far as like their budget at this point? Like, where does it sit? I It'll be interesting. I really do. I believe that it'll be interesting. I and I say that at the same time. Um, and I was looking at um the Justin Kirkland out of Oklahoma State just got in the portal, a defensive tackle. Anytime a defensive tackle gets in the portal, my ears kind of pop up because Oklahoma's so adamant on trying to solidify that position. And he's Parker, I think he would be, if you're looking for like more depth there. I understand you just got somebody in the portal. I get it. I get it. But in the SEC, that's what our sources keep telling us, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
never have too many defensive tackles. If you have the numbers, where's OU sit? Like they're at like 103 right now, right?
I think it's 104.
104. So if they get Carter, then they're done at that point. Okay, well then they cannot go get Kirkland. But that would be an interesting get. If you missed out on Carter, just go grab another defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
A very Brent Venables thing to do. And he's a decent defensive tackle. So, but no, how much longer do you think this thing drags out with Carter? What, 48 hours maybe?
Oh my goodness. It has to end soon. Has to,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe by the time this podcast gets released, there will
Hmm.
be a decision from Jermichael Carter. We can hope, right?
You gotta hope. You gotta hope. How much does he change the room? People I've talked to think he makes a significant difference just with his size and his
Yeah,
ability. Do you think they can develop him into that?
I I don't really have any
Statistically, yeah.
concrete expectations for Jermichael Carter because he's got good size, right? 6'4", 192. But even so, Oklahoma has other size guys that are going to be more familiar with the scheme and more familiar with Emmett Jones' coaching style. And you have not only Ivan Carrion and Jaden Gibson, but you got Manny Choice coming in as a true freshman. He did some nice things throughout the spring. I think that the way I look at it, whatever you get out of Jermichael Carter in 2025, you take it. It's kind of how I see it. If
Yeah.
he adds anything to the room, you are pleased because he's not a 1 year rental, right? He's got 2 years of eligibility left. So he doesn't
Hmm.
have to pop off in 2025. Maybe, just maybe, and this is an interesting parallel to draw given what happened to him in 2024, but maybe, just maybe, Jermichael Carter has a season, if he gets to Oklahoma and has a season like Jaden Gibson had in 2023, where he only catches 12, 15 passes, but makes some meaningful plays when he
Hmm.
does step on the field. Maybe that springboards him to a renaissance year as a senior in 2026. I think that's what the hope would be for a guy like that. Much as
Yeah.
it was for Jaden Gibson in 2023, right? Jaden Gibson was not the A1 option in that receiver room. He wasn't even the second or the third option. But what he did throughout the season with the snaps and the targets that he was given ostensibly set him up to inherit a full-time starting role in 2024
Hmm.
and get a much larger percentage of the targets. Obviously, that didn't happen for Gibson because he ripped up his knee in August, but that's kind of what I'd be looking for Carter if he
Yeah.
landed at Oklahoma. Was okay, what can you do? What kind of impact, what kind of tangible impact can you have on the game and on the season with, call it, 10, 15 catches?
It's an interesting question. I, I gave that exact parallel when people were griping about like when I said that there were people inside the Switzer Center on our board that feel he can come in and make a difference. Like he changes the room for them, and obviously that's their evaluation. The people in the Switzer Center's evaluation of Jermichael Carter,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some that were like, well, you're paying for all this money for an FCS or FCS guy or a G5 guy, and I was like, you all said the same thing about Giovanni Gibson, and yes, he got injured, right? But
Hmm.
before he got injured, he ended up being the number one guy in spring, right? He was looked upon as like the next dude.
Yeah.
And then people were like, well, his size is what worries me. And I said, well, everybody thought, like you said, Jaden Gibson was going to have this like coming out party in 2024, and they're the exact same size. The exact same size. So I just think people have PTSD, Parker, with the wide receiver room
Which
overall.
is, I mean, look, people have PTSD in so many respects right now with
Oh,
Oklahoma
yeah.
football. It's understandable after 2024. I
100%.
get it.
Yeah. So I still would be excited about the wide receiver room because you still got Deion Burks coming back, and I think he's going to be, as long as he stays healthy. And I think a lot of last year, and I think this is going to make people mad that I say this, I think a lot of last year, I think the staff was like, until you're fully healthy, don't come back. There was, at that point, there was like, they weren't fighting for a conference title, they were fighting for bowl game, a bowl game at that point. So, what would be the point of further injuring your potential star wide receiver in 2025 in a season that is by a multiple metrics kind of a lost cause, right? Like there wasn't a lot to play for, and he tried to even come back and he got re-injured again. So I think you have Deion Burks, who I believe with his rapport with Mateer at this point, they should be pretty good. I think Elijah Thomas is going to have a phenomenal freshman year. I think Isaiah Satania is somebody that they look upon as another really good player, maybe your number two. So at that point, you need a fourth wide receiver that you feel really, really good about right now. That fourth wide receiver was probably going to be Elijah Thomas when Giovanni Gibson was your number one, right?
Hmm.
Jermichael Carter, having him as your number four, that's not bad. It's not bad, right?
There's going to be so much healthy competition for the targets in
It
Oklahoma's wide
is.
receiver room,
Yes.
assuming all of those guys stay available and active.
Correct.
Man, like,
The fact we have to say that. It's cursed, bro. It's
you
cursed.
got you got guys with experience, and you got experience. Like you got guys that have done it in an OU uniform, and you got guys that have done it at other places. I think
Yeah.
most specifically of Satania and Giovanni Gibson in that regard. But the guys that got run, probably more run than they otherwise would have gotten last year at Oklahoma because of the circumstances. Guys like Zion Kearney and Ivan Carrion. Really interested to see what kind of a jump those dudes can make. Also, like I know some folks like to hate on Zion Reagans, but hear me out. What if Zion Reagans takes advantage of the time that he's on the shelf to eat a few extra ribeyes and pack on some weight, and he gets to fall camp in the 165, 170 range? Could he make more of an impact than anybody's giving him credit for right now?
Are you holding the football?
I am holding a football.
Very nice.
Josiah Martin, too. He had a nice spring.
Yeah,
Don't lose track of Josiah Martin.
Kearney and Josiah Martin kind of get lost in the shuffle
They
every time
do.
we talk about wide receivers.
And you know who else barely gets talked about? The guy who probably was the most
Oh
emergent
yeah, Jacob Jordan.
contributor receiver
Yeah,
last year for Oklahoma. Yeah, Jacob
yeah.
Jordan.
It's a shame. I would assume he's probably going to play a significant amount in the slot this year. Um,
If there are any snaps left between him
that's
and
fair.
Burks and Satania and
Yeah,
Josiah Martin, who can also play that slot.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What you, you look at Well, first off, I think we have to talk about it just because it was such a big deal on Twitter today, or X, whatever you want to call it. The Andy Staples top 25, post spring top 25. And I get the vitriol from the OU fans. Like, what in the hell does OU have to do to get respect in a ranking after you all say they're going to be the most improved team and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And then you don't throw them in the top 20, but you throw Texas Tech in there
Yeah.
and
Okay.
you throw
Well,
some weird teams in there that are you just look at and go, what?
and my thought on that is, does anyone truly care?
They care. That's why I brought it up because
Like,
the comments, it kept popping up on my feed. So they obviously care. I don't care. I made a joke about it, but I'm talking about it because everybody else cares.
I think you got to understand that post spring, the months of April, May, and June, when there's nothing going on football wise,
Click, click, click,
it's like
click, click.
peak engagement farming season.
Yes, it is.
And that's what 90% of the content is going to be. And you just have to be willing to filter it and digest it as such. So, did I give a second look to that graphic when I scrolled past it on Twitter today? No, I did not, nor should anyone.
Did you see the GIF I posted? The oh, you're not fast enough.
Yeah.
The fish.
Well, no one should be all too concerned with post spring top 25s right now or what the national media is saying about the University of Oklahoma. And that's no shade on Andy Staples or On Three or
No.
anybody that produces that type of content. It's just at this point, I think Oklahoma fans that endured the hellish 2024 campaign in all of its disgustingness
Mm-hmm.
should be at the point where they realize talk is cheap. You should let your play do on the football field do the talking. And until we get the chance to see Brent Venables and this Oklahoma football team handle business on the field this fall, we're all running in circles trying to predict outcomes at this point. It's just
Yeah.
it's a machine that feeds itself in many ways, but trying to predict what's going to happen this fall in the SEC is something I personally am not going to be comfortable doing until we get much closer to the season. And ultimately, what I think is going to happen, what you think is going to happen, what anyone thinks is going to happen is of little consequence because there is so much that we do not know and cannot know
Mm-hmm.
about this Oklahoma football team until we actually see it on the field. I
Yep.
think there is as much room for variance with this Oklahoma team, i.e., they could be that much worse than we think they're going to be, and they could be that much better than we think they're going to be. There's as much room for variance with this Oklahoma 2025 product as there is for just about any team in college football. That is my standpoint on the matter.
I put in the tweet underneath it. I don't think anybody should get up in arms over not being put in the top 25 because there's a lot of questions for OU, even from those that say they're the most improved. And I don't think you're going to know a dang thing about this team until after they play Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not. That is going to be the game where you look and go, okay, either they're really good, they're good, or they're really bad. There's three. There's like because I don't think you'll be if they're average, you won't be able to tell they're average because the record's not going to show average with what their schedule is. You can't be average and be anything better than 5-7. And that just looks really bad if you're Oklahoma. So it would lean towards really bad. So I think if they beat Michigan, I think you're going to feel good. If they don't, probably going to be a long season, Parker. Probably going to be a long season. But
Mm-hmm.
um the rivals camps this weekend, I'm actually really excited about that. We haven't got the roster yet for it, but if last year is any indication, and particularly the Rivals 5-star challenge is any indication, I suspect this one's going to be a lot pretty loaded. Like, do you think there's a chance we get to see Bo Bentley? I mean, chance, obviously, but do you think he shows? Like, if you were a guessing man, do you think he shows?
I would guess no.
Of course not.
We can hope, but for him, there's genuinely not a lot to gain for a quarterback in particular who's already trimmed his list to three of the most historic programs in college football. There's not a whole lot to gain from a camp like that. And so I don't have the expectation that we're going to get to see Bentley. We'll get to see a lot of talented prospects in the 2026 cycle. Make no mistake. Carter Scruggs is apparently showing up,
Really?
which is wild. Yes, to the Dallas Rivals camp. So that'll be fun. Those for those not familiar, four-star offensive tackle and major Oklahoma target in the 2026 cycle from the state of Virginia.
Yeah.
So
Quite the drive.
it is
Or
quite the
flight.
drive. I imagine it'll
flight.
be a plane flight, but
I just
it'll be fun to touch base with Carter.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping that Taj Overton shows up because I think he will put on a show if he does. Jaden O'Neal won't be there because he's already qualified for the 5-star challenge when he was out in LA. Now, let me rephrase that. He may show up and just hang out. That is on the table from what I'm told. If that happens, he will obviously be down there training if that happens or to train. I'll know more later in the week on that. But yeah, outside of Taj Overton, maybe Braden Presley is somebody I really want to see because I want to see him covering space, whether it be at corner or safety. I want to see him covering space. I think another guy, obviously Mason James would be a good one to get down there. But the 27 list in Oklahoma, I think a lot of the OK Preps kids that you could get down there, I hope they make it. Because that class is pretty loaded. It's really loaded, actually. So I'm hoping there's a lot of Oklahoma kids. Who's the one player you want to see? Like, if you could pick the perfect player and you think they're going to show up, who's the one guy you want to see?
Cooper Hackett. My answer is Cooper Hackett because you look at the two other major recruiting services, 24/7 and On3. 24/7 has him as the number 9 player in the nation.
Yeah.
On3 has him as the number 19 player in the nation. Right now for us at Rivals, he's number 198.
Yeah, no, he's a 5-star.
If he shows up and he dominates in front of the Rivals national staff and analysts, it'll probably be a week or two before he is right up there in that same territory.
I'll just say this. I don't care if he doesn't perform well. His upside is higher than everybody else's. Go watch him play basketball.
He's
That's all you have to do.
very traitsy. That's the word.
He is.
The traits are there, and they are elite.
He is a specimen. A specimen, and he can move for a big 6'7" kid. What defensive tackles? I'm a big defensive tackle guy at these things. I like to see the defensive tackles perform. Is there anybody outside of Taj Overton that you feel that is worth?
So there are a couple local kids in Oklahoma in the 26 cycle that I'm very, very interested to see. We got to see Jalen Battle in the Under Armour next event down in Dallas in February.
MVP.
Yeah, but he's not the only one locally that has started to pick up some steam on the recruiting trail. Naquane Carter from Southmore is a kid that I have not seen live yet. I have mixed feelings about him on tape. Like I could go either way.
There's transfer buzz with him.
I want to see that with my own two eyes. And then a guy that kind of flew under the radar for me for quite a while before come to find out, Oklahoma is keeping him on the radar. He's got an official visit set to Kansas State, but kid from out there in Tahlequah, Kingston Hall.
Hmm. He what do you think of his size for like in Oklahoma?
For I'm assuming you mean as a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
There's weight he's going to need to put on.
Yeah. I was thinking.
Yeah,
Isn't he
he's
like
undersized.
250? Yeah. Right now. I was looking at him the other day actually. What was he? He's 260. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking 250. Um OU fans are kind of getting annoyed a little bit because Oklahoma only has what 4 commits and they've had 4 commits for the last
3 months. 3
3
months to the
months. Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
January 28th. We're sitting here recording this on the evening of the 28th of April. It's been 3 months to the day since Oklahoma last got a commitment. It's a
On that note,
long time, Brandon. I
it's
believe offhand that is
23
the
was like that. 23 was like that.
I believe offhand that is the second longest drought of the Brent Venables era.
23 was for longest. Yep.
No, I don't think so. I
It
think
wasn't
it was
2023?
no, I don't believe it was. The longest drought would have been between Michael Fasusi and Jet New last fall. That was August 21st to December 2nd, so just over 3 months in that case.
What they wasn't there like a 3-month deal with 2023 as well?
Not that I
Um,
can recall.
man, I feel like it was because I don't know, I remember talking to Jackson Arnold one time and him talking about how long it had been since they had a commit.
It did take that class a while to really get off the ground because you had Jackson Arnold and Eric McCarty commit in the month of January. Or you know what? You're right. You're
I thought it was
right.
like 5 months, wasn't it? Something like that.
No, no, it wasn't because there was also Ashton Cozart. Now he dropped off, but I forget when it was he committed to Oklahoma. But he was the kind
He
of
was early.
he was the one that kind of bisected that drought, as I recall.
Oh, hold on. Um, just go
He
to
was
his,
he committed to Oklahoma on February 4th.
and he
Okay.
decommitted.
May 22nd.
But they didn't get a commit until like June, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that would have been a lengthy drought as well.
It was like 4 months. Yeah. It's like, I remember that because I remember Jackson Arnold one time telling me, he's like, dude, it's been like 4 months for us. It's got to end at some point. So, I, I think that's probably what's going to happen here. Just for y'all, I can't imagine. Like, do you think there'll be a commitment in the next?
No, hang on. I did have
Okay.
this right. I did have this right because there's another kid we forgot about.
Who's that?
You remember who committed at the spring game that cycle? Caleb Spencer.
Oh my gosh.
That's a deep cut right there. But
Ended
yeah,
up
so
in Miami.
this will have been the second longest drought at this point, behind only the gap from Fasusi to Jet New.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow. I did not realize that. I forgot about Caleb Spencer. Just because he was like, he never talked to anybody, anyways.
Correct. Yes.
He was kind of a outcast, and rightfully so. Um, I don't expect there to be a commitment until June at this
Really?
point. Do you?
You think May's dry as well?
Like who?
Well, there's a kid who's a pretty solid OU lean right now that has a commitment date on the schedule for May 15th.
Oh, yeah,
Ryan Gilbert.
yeah. I forgot about him. Yeah, that's right.
So that might mark the end of the drought. Another
That's right.
2.5 weeks.
And then after that, like, I'll just tell everybody, like, June, you June is what we call official visit season. July is when we call commitment season. July and August is usually commitment season. I think
Hmm.
now the end of June, you start to get a lot of commitments, and you'll get some sprinkled in June here and there. I think just because the class has a lo- I'm interested in the numbers because I was talking to somebody yesterday and they're like, I don't know what Oklahoma's going to do. Like, how does Jim Nagy, how do they see themselves in this NIL landscape with the profit sharing and the high school? Like, are they wanting to be developers right now, or are they wanting to kind of turn into what Ole Miss does, and that is throw everything that they can at the portal at all times? I don't know where Oklahoma's headed. I think they're in a very odd space right now, Parker. Like I really do. Like how many I think they can probably take what 25 this year. Like they have a chance to take almost 25 this time. It's not going to be as I don't think it's going to be as small as the class as it was last year, right? High school wise. Or let me rephrase that. They have a chance for it not to be numbers wise. But will they? Will they? Like, if you were to lean, do you think they'll take in the 20s with high school?
Yes. I
You
think
do.
you have to. I think you have to just from a budgetary standpoint. Transfers cost money, man.
They cost a lot.
Transfers cost a lot of money. And so I don't think it's going to be the new normal, what you saw in the 2025 class where Oklahoma signs 18 guys. I think this next class is probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 22. Still all told on the lighter end of the
Yeah.
spectrum, but not bare bones the way that the 2025 class felt, the way that the 2021 class felt. Remember that class, only 16
Yeah.
high school signees. There's going to have to be some substance, and I believe there will be.
I I also think that you are going to see because of what's happening with this, I think you're going to see guys stick around longer. I don't think the portal is going to be no, maybe this coming portal, yes, but I think as time moves along, and you've seen it with Oklahoma, like Oklahoma, there isn't a lot of guys leaving like there used to be with Oklahoma, right? Like it's getting less and less as you go along as far as players leaving the portal. Now, where I stand on that is I'm interested to see how Oklahoma offsets that. Do they go high school or do they try to get a here and now? And my guess is it's going to be situational. Like, do they feel like they need somebody there that can win now because they don't feel comfortable with whoever's in that room at this time? And those guys are still developing. I don't know how it's going to be a long term deal for Oklahoma in the portal because, again, like you said, they cost so much money. And with this profit sharing, everything kind of goes down. The good news for Oklahoma is that they're in a big metropolitan area. They have Tulsa and they have Dallas within stone's throw of them. And that's going to allow them to have that third party NIL more than a lot of these
Mm,
other small colleges do. You know, the smaller town college areas. I think the universities from the bigger metro areas are probably going to benefit more in this era than the smaller ones outside of like the Notre Dames of the world because they're just such a big brand, right? Would you not agree with that? Just like the bigger brands are going to probably benefit more, just like it was back in the day
oh yeah.
when it was just relationship and his brand. It was all branding.
Hmm.
So I think this is where Oklahoma will be able to be a lot more. And I think you're starting to see it a little bit. A little bit. I think you're seeing a precursor of it because Oklahoma's been pretty, I don't want to say lucky in the portal, but they've had some pretty good like the hell they've had pretty good luck this spring cycle. So the luck that Oklahoma hasn't seen the winter and spring this time around than they haven't seen over in the previous seasons. So, um, speaking of Portal Parker, Portal Moser,
Holy smokes. Brandon, I got to take. You ready for
Uh-oh.
this?
I am.
I
Is it hot?
think I think Porter Moser and this Oklahoma basketball program has already put together the single most impressive offseason that I have seen from any Oklahoma athletic program in the transfer portal era. I mean, this has been a transformative haul for
Hmm.
them. Transformative.
Yeah.
Tay Davis,
That's what
Nigel
it is.
Pack, Xavier Brown, now Darian Reed, a former five-star and McDonald's All-American. This is okay. And I'll say this, and I think this is for the best. This is going to sound, I don't know, maybe grating in a sense, but it's the truth, and I think it's for the best. Porter Moser has eliminated all the excuses heading into next season. This is a team that should very well be expected to make the NCAA tournament and probably win a game or two, at least. It's going to be the most talented squad he's ever put on the floor as head coach of the
By
University of
far.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And it's really not close.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, by far the most talented. I'm looking at it and
Remember when Porter's starting point guard was Jordan Goldwire? No knock on Jordan Goldwire, man, but he's like the he's like the 10th or 11th man on this team at this point.
I'm looking um at the does 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 Rivals do the bad they have a basketball portal rankings, right?
I don't know if they do or not.
I'm looking.
Genuinely do not know. But what I do know is Oklahoma thought Xavier Brown was the top available point guard in the transfer portal. They went and
Hmm.
got him. Nigel Pack, a well above average 3-point shooter over the course of his collegiate career. They add him to that backcourt. Tay Davis and Darian Reed. Darian Reed, you know, I had one individual describe him to me today as a more athletic Jalen Moore. If you have a more athletic version of Jalen Moore showing up, boy, that gets you really, really excited. Like I feel like at this point you still need a true center, right?
Yeah.
Still need to add another true center, and that's probably it. Once you add another legit 6'10" or taller dude that can play down low and take some of the onus off Mo Wagee to be the guy at 5 for Oklahoma, take some of the onus off Kai Rogers to be ready to play rotationally right off the bat, then you have a team that should be capable of beating anybody in the SEC on any given night. Now, the SEC is a tough league, so by no means am I insinuating Oklahoma's going to go like 30-4 or anything like that
Yeah.
and waltz into the tournament with a number one seed. No, like the nature of the beast in the SEC is that you're probably going to have to slug your way to the tournament with double-digit losses. It's probably how it's going to be. But by the time you get there, man, you're going to be battle tested. You're going to have shooters. You're going to have depth. The only question will be, well, for one, are you healthy? But also, do you have the interior play? Do you have the paint presence
Yeah.
to hold up come tournament time?
Yeah,
This is a team that's already, and you don't want to put too much on them too soon, but they have the pieces to put something pretty special together in the 25-26 season.
so I'm looking at the transfer team rankings, and since I can't find it on Rivals, I'm going to use 24/7. They're ninth. Oklahoma's ninth. They got 4 4 stars, and just so you want to look at average per commit. I think Oklahoma's in the top 5, Parker. They are. They average per commit 95.25. The only teams above them is Michigan, St. John's, and Kentucky. They are fourth in average per ranking as far as transfer portal commits go. That is insanity, Parker. 95.25.
That'll play.
That is crazy.
Again, Brandon, I think it is the most impressive offseason I have ever
I'm
seen
going to agree.
from an OU athletics program in the portal era.
And that's, I'm going to, what I'm just going to say as a whole, if you combine, like, since the portal opened up, right? And I understand that Oklahoma got, Jalen Hurts out of the portal back in the day. I understand that you got Dylan Gabriel, right? But I think when you look at it from a perspective across the athletic department, what the men's basketball and football did winter and spring in the portal, how can a fan be upset at anything that's going on portal wise for Oklahoma right now? You retained David Stone. You brought in John Mateer. You brought in Jaden Ott. That one was, there are some that believe he's going to be a superstar. There are some that believe, I know people in the Switzer Center think that Jaden Ott ranks up there with some of the top backs that were taken in the draft. I've been told that multiple times. I'm trying to think who else has Oklahoma brought in that was just like eye-opening out of the portal. Has there been anybody else? I guess Derek Simmons was a pretty big get. He was ranked fairly high particularly with us at Rivals. I think he was a top 40 guy in the portal, right? 29th, I believe. He was ranked. That's pretty
He was
good.
up there.
Yep. But then when you culminate that with the basketball, Darian Reed, Nigel Pack, right? Just Tay Davis. Who am I missing off the top of my head here? Xavier Brown. Like crazy gets. Getting Trey Young, getting Jim Nagy. like that was a hell of an offseason for Oklahoma athletic department wise. That'll win. If you're an OU fan, you got to be pretty thrilled about that and feel good about where things are headed with both programs. And I mean, we didn't even talk about the women getting the number one and the highest rated player in women's basketball recruiting in God knows how long. Right? You're winning. Softball did it. They always do good in the portal. Baseball had a good portal offseason. If you're an OU fan, you should be pretty happy.
It feels like it always enhances the athletic image of the institution when you have that one superstar athlete that's outside the coalition of the traditional revenue generating sports, right? Like you expect to have stars, and everybody knows the stars in football and men's basketball, and at this point, softball.
Yep.
But for instance, you remember Maggie Nichols a few years back for the gymnastics program? Like everybody across the country knew who Maggie Nichols was. She was a superstar. And if that's what Oklahoma has for their women's basketball program and Aaliyah Chavez, that'll play.
Yeah. Hey, the crazy part is they got Beers the year before out of the portal, and she was a top portal get. I mean, it hasn't always been Debbie Downer season when it comes to OU in the portal, regardless of the sport. So things tend to be moving a little bit in a better direction. I just was talking to somebody about the Rivals, and I think we're going to get some stuff over the next few days. So we should be able to, if you're on OU Insider, we'll be able to throw out like who we're going to talk to, who we have, all that type of stuff. We're going to have notes on OU on the road, and all the staff is out on the road. They were with Jaden O'Neal today. I know there were some in Tulsa, a couple out west, a couple out east. So there's a lot going on as far as that. We're going to have all those notes, who Oklahoma's seeing, who their top targets are at all these positions, some updates there for you guys over on OU Insider. And let me tell you something, right now is the best time to sign up, because if you just pay $9.95, you get 4 months. So you'll get the rest of April, you'll get May, June, July, August. Obviously, it's It's amazing. It's just a week-long promo we're running. You buy one, you get 3 months free. So you get 4 months. It'll get you all the way through fall camp, essentially, right to where the football season kicks off. And you'll get the commitment season, official visit season, party in the palace, Sooners under the stars, Champ U barbecue, all that stuff, man. It's prime. You get the rest of the portal season. You get all the updates, what we talk about as far as the off season notes, the workouts, how those things are going for Oklahoma, all the fall camp and team notes. We will have all sorts of stuff for you guys over on OU Insider. Plus, we're going to be covering softball postseason, baseball postseason. Have everything for you guys over on OU Insider VIP. All you have to do, what's the promo code, Parker?
The promo code is B1G3F. Buy one, get three free. Right? So B1G3F.
We'll have that below. How about that? We'll just have the link below, and you can go. That link should bring the promo code for you, but it's B1G3F. B1G3F. You pay $9.95, you get 4 months. Pretty simple. If you are a college student with the .edu, if you are active duty military, please email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. You don't have to do that promo code. You email us from your .edu. You email us from your active duty military, and it has to be from them. Has to be, and you have to sign up with that as well. If you sign up with your active duty military or your .edu, you email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. We'll send you a promo code to sign up for 1 year, $11.95. That's less than $1 a month. We want to thank you guys for watching this podcast. Thank you, OU fans, for everything that you guys have done for us. We don't do this without you all. Thank you, Riverwind, for sponsoring us. Thank you, Jana King. Thank you, Huel. For Parker Thune, my name's Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.